and welcome back to another video. So I took advantage of a Black Friday sale recently of something I was like very much eyeing, but I was not sure on where to purchase it. So I don't know if you guys have seen those acrylic gel pen markers floating around that a lot of artists have been using on, I feel like any short form type of media. I've always seen them floating around. So I took advantage of the Black Friday sale and found a set that like was okay priced. I'm not too sure if this is like exactly the same one that people were using. I ended up getting the plus bold version. I'm pretty sure there's like much more thinner ones out there, but this is the set and the brand that I've been seeing kind of floating around. So this is the Languo version of these acrylic painting gel pens. This is 54 colors, and I was not too mad the fact that I could only find the bold one for what I was looking for, because maybe it'll make it a little bit easier for me to color in areas, because I've seen people use them for like coloring in illustrations, but typically of a somewhat smaller size. But the drawing that I want to do today is a little bit on the bigger scale than some other doodles. I have used these markers before using them for today's video, but it was a very small doodle, so hopefully today's result will be a lot better. But here's a quick look at these gel pens. So from my belief, they function the same way as gel pens. They're very opaque, and I believe they dry very similarly, just like as acrylic marker type of consistency for the most part. And this comes with 3 trays. I'm not going to show you guys all the colors here because I did do color swatches. So this is kind of what the pens look like. So this is what it is: acrylic gel pen plus Languo P650, and this is B for bold, I'm assuming. And they all have like color codes right here. And then the tip is what you would expect from like a gel pen, kind of like a rollerball pen-esque, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just basically a typical pen kind of look. And I used one of these markers more recently. I believe I used it for the Tinari alcohol marker drawing that I did in my sketchbook 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, depending on when I decide to upload this video. But I used it as like a normal white gel pen to do a little bit of highlights. But I thought it'd be fun today to do kind of like a full illustration in a way with these markers to see how well they perform. I'm hoping they last quite a long time, and I'm always like skeptical about like how gel pens tend to jam and dry up and then suddenly become very unusable. So I want to kind of test these out as much as I can. So let's go ahead and grab my sketchbook, and I'll show you guys what we'll be working on today, since I've already sketched out the character that I want to draw with these markers. So here we have my current sketchbook. And I already have a sketched finished right here. So I'm not too sure how many people will recognize this character. So this is Ezra Theodore from Reverse 1999, and he's one of my favorite characters from that game. I have a lot of favorite characters in that game specifically, but we're going to use the markers. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys have a better sense of what we are going to be working on a much closer scale. But yes, I decided to do the sketch with the Pilor Color ENO as usual, just to keep my sketch a little bit more easy to work with so I'm not smudging around graphite. Okay, so apparently I didn't hit record. I went ahead once again and erased the sketch at this point, and I went on a whole thing talking about that I don't want my red lines to really impede with the pens in terms of like if I need to build up more coverage. I don't want to accidentally be blending in this red. Also, I have like blue from the last sketching session. I don't know if you guys know what order I'm like doing these videos in, but yeah, that's the only reason my hand is blue right now. It's the blue lead that I was using earlier. I was talking about the reason I wanted to draw Ezra specifically, even though like he's not like my ultimate favorite. I feel like Marcus would be, Voyager and Tooth Fairy, and maybe Sotheby, and then it would be Ezra. But I think his like aesthetic and his whole design is very cute. He gives me like Fremini vibes, if anything. So he's kind of like my sweet, sweet son. But his skin tone and his hair are on the lighter side. But I really wanted to include like his mushroom cap or his hat, because we can get some vibrant reds. Same with like some accent colors in his gloves. And I really like his eye color. And a lot of like acrylic marker sets, or at least from what I've seen, people use this one. I've seen a lot of people draw Miku. There's one specific artist I do follow that I've seen them use this particular marker set, and they draw Miku a lot, and I really like the color payoff. So I was tempted to draw the, what is it called? The Snow Miku for next year on this side. So we'll see what happens, because maybe I'll draw Voyager. But because my camera was not recording, let's go back and I'll show you guys again about my test that I did of my OC Selwyn. So the reason I drew Ezra so large, despite the gel pen being still very small for the tip, despite it being the bold or like the plus size, is the fact that I was getting very thick lines while working on this one. And I might struggle with the coverage since I'm working on such a larger character right now, but I wanted to see whether or not I can work at a larger scale. Maybe it'll work better with this thickness. I think I should have mentioned this. I don't really talk about this in the video because I just found this out now, but the artist that I showed a little bit earlier, like a few seconds ago, that uses these particular gel pens also uses the plus size, and they seem to have no problem using them. It's clearly just a skill issue on my end with the thickness of these gel pens, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the session regardless. Oh, before that, I need to show you guys swatches. As usual, I have like a little swatch book with all of my traditional art swatches. Also, I use this as like a scratch pad for a lot of things, so probably we use it for both. But right here, I have our color swatches. So there's some colors you can't really see because my camera just doesn't really want to show it very well. There's like white right here. This is like a very light pinkish purple color. And then here's kind of like a mintier color. Kind of like a fun selection of colors though. And I feel like we do have some dark-ish colors, but not too many, as I feel like a lot of acrylic marker brands typically don't give you a lot of dark colors. So we have some lighter colors and a lot of midtones. We'll see how this will work out. We can figure it out for sure. Okay. So skin tone, we have like a really light one. We have like a more kind of like a base color, I guess we'll use 603, 604. For shading, I use like a really dark pink. I'm so inexperienced with using like acrylic markers, so we're gonna do a lot of testing. I want to see if I can clear my desk too. Yeah, we'll use 604 probably for the majority of his skin tone, and then our highlight is 603. And like I mentioned, my biggest fear for using something like these acrylic markers is the fact that I'm always scared that the tip is going to be pretty much like jammed or clogged. Because I feel like this always happens with like white gel pens. And then you're not able to use them anymore, so it feels like a waste. But probably get enough blending time because I can see that it's not like drying super quickly. Because I think I attempted to do a little bit of blending here and there when I was drawing the one of Selwyn. I should also move my mic down because I can't tell if you guys can hear me or not. Because Ezra is so pale, I feel like even this color might be a little bit too dark for the base of his skin tone, so I might have to use it for majority of his shadows. But if anyone has used these gel pens before, or these gel acrylic marker pens, whatever you want to call it, do let me know if you have any tips and suggestions, because I've seen quite a few artists use it. But I think I struggle with opaque mediums. I think if we can just do both sides at the same time. Maybe for his eye-ish area, we can kind of feign of something that might resemble like a blush. gonna look a little crazy. Switch back to our light color. Maybe I'll do the highlight in white. See how that goes. I feel like there's also going to be a bit of a difference in like the texture. Since I am scribbling kind of back and forth, you're going to be able to see that. I'm kind of regretting picking Ezra to draw. Because his hair is also going to be like on the light side, so we're going to see how well this is even going to show up. But luckily, because he's pale, I don't have to worry about too much of like trying to get 100% coverage for the skin tone right now. I try my best to get still like somewhat of an even coverage. And because I am doing like a scribbling motion back and forth, maybe I'll show you guys at the very end when all this dries to see if there actually is like a tactile feeling to it, because right now as it's like I'm scribbling back and forth, I can kind of see the streaks, and I don't know if like as it dries will it like flatten out a little bit more, because I've seen other people use it. Some people get like a very smooth consistency, some people also has kind of more of that bumpiness, but it might be the same as like the people who also take the time to smudge either with like a tool or with their fingers as well. Skin tone in here as well. I think I really established where his neck is, but this is supposed to be more like translucent or transparent material, so I want to have some areas still pop through. And once we add some darker colors, he might look a little bit less scary. Didn't really establish where his collarbones are, but I want to add some like other funky colors to this, so we won't go too ham with just adding only the skin tone. Eyeline, or his eyelid. Bring a little bit of this back. I think at any stage, whenever I do like marker, if it's more of an opaque medium, so let's say acrylic markers, then it's gonna look like this, because I'm just dodging areas so I don't want to lose my sketch. So I'm just trying to get some of this extra blurry blended lines that I had initially. I'm just gonna try to get rid of them, appear a little bit smoother. And because it is like one of these opaque mediums, we can always go back and cover stuff up if I don't really like them. I don't know if we want to mix one, or we'll just use maybe like a warm gray for the inside of his sclera. Also, the thing about my sketch is like I didn't really establish where things are supposed to be like super accurately, so even though I'm trying to follow my sketch very closely, these could be very much like incorrect looking. So like I said, his eye colors are, at least to me, like one of the prettiest things about his design. So I want to include as much of like the colors as I can. So it's like a light blue. I'm gonna add kind of like this light mint color. Ooh, I didn't really take this in consideration. From my swatches, we don't have like a super light yellow. So I'm gonna have to use yellow, and then also maybe the skin tone color. So maybe these for his eyes. And then we'll add maybe a tiny smidge of like pink or something in there too. I drew his eyelid a little bit too low, considering where his highlight is. It's gonna be like breaking through. Is he looking a little off-centered? Probably. So you can blend with this color a little bit. The blending of these colors is kind of interesting. So I can't tell if you should do it like right away when both of them are still wet, or like one's kind of like tacky. So I'm gonna let his eyes dry for now. I also forgot about his freckles, so let me add these on. I might darken them a bit. Try adding a little bit of pink to his eyes, but maybe I should do this like after I've actually established where his lash line's gonna be. See, this is a scratch pad. Yeah, the eyes aren't dry enough for me to add like a second layer quite yet. So we're gonna wait. Because his hair, I don't know if I can mix the correct color for his hair, so we might have like a very yellowy base. So I think okay, there we go. I was scared that I accidentally dried this marker out already, or pen. I'm gonna keep using those interchangeably at this point, I apologize. Also gonna grab white for the highlight of his nose. Not only that, I feel like every time I've seen any listing for these, there's so many different sets for these types of markers. Or pens. I should call them pens, they're not markers. Because I might add like the peach tone into here, a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of brown. But I feel like at least my approach for when I use acrylic markers, I try to cover as much of the canvas as I can with like the base color, and then we can add everything afterwards. For this one, I don't mind if they're a little bit more like white gaps and scribbly towards the edges. These are very fun. I know like you could definitely do more like solid, smaller doodles for sure. So I don't think I've mentioned what I'm listening to. I don't know when this video is gonna go out. I mentioned in Monday's video. I think it was Monday's video. Well, this might come out on Wednesday, so who knows when this is coming out. But I have company over, like my parents have their relatives over, and because of that, I'm a little bit limited in terms of like time I can film without disturbing them or them making too much noise for me to be comfortable to record. So because of that, where was I going with that? Oh, I'm kind of recording in advance as much as I can. So I'm actually still listening to, I guess, like the Christmas version of Plave's, I guess the song's called Boo. It's the one with like the Sanrio collab, and I think it's like super cute. Bongsunga is my favorite from that one, that album. But still like a very cute song, like Boo is. Do we have a pale purple? We have a gray. I kind of want to add a little bit of like a cooler color, because I feel like purple is a little bit too much since it's not, it's like a little too, what is it called? Saturated? And it's a little too dark. So I'm gonna add a little bit of this here and there. We can also add it into his little oxygen mask, I guess this is what it is. Like a dark outline around that, so we'll probably do that afterwards. I think his eyes are dry enough for us to go a little bit darker. Try to establish where his pupil is. Something that does throw me off a little bit. I know this is like for any painting medium. It will dry darker. But sometimes they lay down so similarly until it dries. It's hard to tell. So I don't know how I want to do his lower lash line. So I left a lot more space on this one. So maybe I'll have to dig into the eyes a little bit. See how detailed I can get these eyes to look. Because right now they're looking a little rough. I'm gonna dig in with the skin tone, probably to even it out. Because I don't know what this looks like exactly when it dries. I can't tell which one's like a little bit darker. So I don't know if this one really even helps that much. A little bit, I guess. Yeah, the blending is very interesting in terms of what you can do with this. I'm like determined to get the eyes finished first. But we need a transition. So his eye, what is it called? Eyeline, lash line, they're brown? Yeah, I feel like this might be Wednesday's video. You guys might be seeing this before Christmas, technically. Okay, luckily we're evening out his eyes. It is a bit frustrating using these pens just a little bit, because going back and forth, you can kind of like indent the where you already placed down some of the paint. Let's see, what else? Maybe we can add our upper lash line again. Or not lash line, upper eyelid. Because I definitely put them too low initially. Like I mentioned, you can definitely use like a thinner line, but you're gonna have to be very, very careful. But I'm liking these for the color payoff for sure. They're already very vibrant and very fun to use. I think it's just like my style and the way how I think. I definitely am struggling a little bit with using this to its full potential. So you might have to paint over them anyways, but this gives me a better semblance of what he's gonna look like. Oops, made them really uneven. I mean, granted this one's gonna be covered quite a bit, but it would have been nice to not have them look so funky right away. I don't know how I kept doing that. I've indented one. Made the other one way too slanted. Add more of a lighter red color afterwards. I just want to put an indication of where the band would be. Because I think we'll do one more layer of like a darker brown at the very top, and then maybe I'll darken with the dark blue again. And I think that'll be it for his eyes. Ezra's looking really cute though. I'm scared to do his hair, if you can't tell. I don't know how I want to do the color for it, because it's kind of like a very muted kind of blonde color. I guess it's kind of this color in a way, but it's not quite beige. You can kind of see that I'm definitely just leaving this area very blank because of it. Mix it in with our peach kind of base skin tone again. So it's one of the lightest colors in this batch. I don't know how many colors like this Languo set has, but like I mentioned, if I do end up like using these for like doodling, I guess, in a way. I don't know if these will count as doodles per se. I feel like so much goes into it. It might not be counted as a doodle per se. I might look into the other colors, who knows. I'm also like not very committed to too many art mediums that are traditional other than like obviously watercolors, because that one I will always go out of my way also to buy like different tubes to test out. A little bit less like recently because I've been using like pre-made sets, pan sets. Guess it is more of this peachy color that we're using. I might just have to use maybe more purples rather than like too many peaches or oranges so that we can differentiate it from his hair color. Because blonde is like one of the colors of hair, including white, sometimes black. Black I feel like I have a lot more fun with. But blonde becomes like an area of like you make it too yellowy or you make it too brassy, too brown, too orange. It leans into like too many areas, I feel like. At least for me it does. I struggle with it. Yeah, I think we'll revisit this tomorrow. And that way I can also do like the red areas of his mushroom cap because that's what I'm most excited. And he has like a little bit more red around the straps. And then he has like orange. Well, it's mostly red. Yeah, red for the inside of his gloves. And then we can do the rest of his clothing, which is like white. He has like brown suspenders. And then I think that's it pretty much. So we're just gonna leave it here for now. I'm probably going to use as much purple into his hair, like I mentioned, to knock back so that we can add shading somehow without making this too similar to like the skin tone. Because right now we're using the same base. So I'm a little bit afraid of making this too samey, I guess. But for now, I'll come back and I guess you guys will see it like in a second. Okay, so apologies if the lighting is different. We are back for day 2, and today is much more of like a sunnier day, so I can't I can't really blame it. I can't even tell if we had the Chinook yesterday or not. So we're continuing Ezra right now. I think we're working on the hair, so I'm gonna switch back. I don't know if it's because like my lamp is also very bright. When I turn it off and I look at the colors that are present on my page, they look very like fluorescent-ish. And I think I mentioned yesterday that I don't mind if the edges are a little bit more like scribbly in texture, but I don't know if I want that for like every area. Let's say like the hair that's like nearest to his face. So we're gonna try to mix some colors together. It's kind of like muted gray brown will probably help though. The problem with the lighter colors, I actually can't tell where they're dry or not. Let's see. I don't know what else to do to make it look a little bit less. Like, I need more contrast, but I don't want to add too much color right away. So maybe let's try to define these hair pieces first. I'm a little bit timid about adding so many like vibrant colors to his hair because it is so pale. But it'll also make the line stand out a lot less, which I might be liking a little bit more. Also, I need to warm up my camera. See if we can make this look a little bit more accurate. There we go. So maybe we'll use our mid-tone. I'll use the lighter color to pull out some highlights. And I'll try to find that dark color again, and we can try to push the contrast a little bit more. Okay. Let's see if we can also... I don't want to put my hand always into the paint. But for lighter hair color, I always find that it's easier to add a band of like shadow underneath where you think the highlights would be. So it adds a little bit of texture, but I think it helps with, one, the form and like the way how the hair would curve downwards. It also makes the highlight pop a little bit more. At least I find it does. I've always done this. Switch back to our lighter color. I'm gonna try to fill in more of our white gaps. It would have been smart for me to work left or right as well. Because my lines get very shaky because I'm not like resting my hand down on the surface of the paper. But I want to make progress so that we can work on his hat. Also, like, I don't think I've ever really used like a gel pen right until the very end of where I've run out of ink. So I'm kind of interested on how long these would last. I'm only saying that because typically for when I've used gel pens as like a kid or even just like writing notes as like during my uni days, they would always like clog and dry up before I can finish using them. But using them for like a coloring medium, I'm kind of interested in like how much ink is in this reservoir. I'm gonna try to widen this out so we can even these sides up. Also add a little bit of our mint color so that we're not just stuck with gray and beige. I'll probably add a little bit of pink in here too. This one's so close to white, it might as well be white. So we can also see if this works for highlights. Looks like it is. It's so light, I can't tell if it's dispensing any ink right now. Because I feel like you can feel the consistency as well when it's gliding very smoothly versus when there's like a lot of resistance. I'm always like conflicted on whether or not areas that should be like white, do you color them in with like white so that they match more visibly, like physically with the medium, or do you leave it with like the white of the page or canvas? Because I know when I work with like acrylic markers, sometimes I just use the canvas color as like the white areas. So I don't know how dark this dries. I could always be checking like my color swatches, which would probably be a better idea, but sometimes I just grab a pen and go. Which oftentimes leads to like little mistakes here and there, but I don't mind as long as I either quickly realize and like change it, or we just roll with whatever color we're using. So just try to fill as much as we can right away. I'm kind of glad like the bold one of these tips or these plus sizes, whichever this is categorized as, it does make it a little bit easier for me to color stuff in, so that's kind of nice. Okay, and then also part of this is the metal part of where, I don't know what you would call this, the respirator portion of his mask. This is like where you would like release maybe your CO2, I don't know, when you breathe. I always wonder what happened to my mask that I had back in uni. We always had those masks whenever we had to work with like chemicals for our etching, as well as, I forget what was the other chemical that we were using. But you don't want to breathe that stuff in, so it made a lot of sense. It's kind of like a reddish dark brown, so this one's really dark. Do we want to go that dark? Maybe. If not, 136, I think I already have it out. Yeah, this is what I was using for our edges here, which we can darken later. And that kind of evened it out a bit, so that's nice. I think sometimes laying in the flats is kind of like the ugly process. I think if I made it completely smooth, it could look really cool with making it look very graphic. I think the state that it's in right now, it's a little bit still messy. It's hard to see some things. I feel like the pens do dry pretty fast, but there's still a lot of like leeway with if you potentially want to do some sort of like blending with like an extra tool or your finger or something. Like it's still paint, so it does require some dry time. I'm trying to think, who else do I want to draw? I think yesterday I mentioned that I might draw like Voyager, or who else is there? Sotheby maybe? Marcus? Any of my other favorite characters? I was also thinking maybe I want to draw Hito from Ensemble Stars, because maybe I want to just draw someone with red hair. And he has some like fun outfits, like his racer outfit. I love that kind of like teal color. So that could be fun to do as well. We can also draw Saneto. I remember that's her name. Just adding some red into the mask. I guess it wasn't fully dried, unless it's not sticking. So we have it on the inside of his gloves. Let's kind of rotate our pen until we get the paint going. So technically the red is like truly on the inside of his gloves, but I'm showing it a little bit more because I think it's always fun to show more of like the side of the hand if you can. If there's like a dual tone. I guess it's not as fun. Whoops. What else do we want to add? I guess maybe just a smidge more of a lighter red. I will darken this area too. And we can add, how am I gonna do this? I've also done this with like other mediums as well, where if you can't get like really thin line work, Sometimes using like the inside colors of whatever you're trying to outline as like a way to cut into your line art, you can kind of like give an illusion that it looks a lot thinner. So when the color's like super vibrant like this, it's like nice and opaque and it looks very smooth. I think that's always fun. It just looks so crazy how opaque and smooth it is. Like no streaking. There's not patchiness. Not currently. Maybe when it dries, I feel like it does retract a smidge. I think this is why, like, if you know where your shadows are, you can block those in so that you don't have to do so much back and forth of like layering and doing one full color underneath. You can kind of save a little bit on color if you don't have too much overlap. But because I'm unsure where I want my shadows to be, we're just gonna do this for now. Kind of doing like longer ovals. Don't know if that's better. The motion. I do this like when I scribble doing hatching and sometimes like for dry mediums, I guess. That's how I fill in value. Like instead of doing actually true hatching where you're doing like individual strokes, I kind of just do a back and forth kind of looping motion. Love how vibrant this red is. It looks so nice. I'm definitely gonna see if I can put some blue and or like that teal turquoise color into this though, because I love that pairing a lot. There's some things I can see that I will be able to avoid, like these little, I don't know what these are. The little bumps on a mushroom, I guess. The little white bumps. On like Ezra's hat, they kind of resemble like grilled mochi. That's how the colors are, and I guess like they have a little bit of cross hatching that kind of looks like the grill marks. So I'm gonna let it bleed a little bit more onto the side. So we're gonna let his entire mushroom cap for now kind of dry. So I'm just gonna try to clip this with my left hand. And we're gonna continue working on probably this little shoulder strap or like his overalls. Nope, not overalls. He has like his little, I forget what he calls it, kind of like a terrarium thing on the back of him. When you guys have like traditional art supplies, do you keep them in like the container that they came with? Or do you guys like resort them into like your own desk organization? Or like do you have like a whole pile of traditional mediums and you kind of just put them all together? Because these trays are convenient, but some of the colors, like they're hard to pull out of their trays. Because the pen itself is kind of like smooth all over, except for like this little notch, which is meant for them to prevent themselves from rolling. But also like I have my swatches based on their location, I guess, or their organization from when they were inside the trays in the box. So like I feel like I have to keep them like that unless I want to always identify them with the color code on their caps. I wish I was one of those people who had like very aesthetic looking like marker display cases or shelves that you can use to organize your markers, but I'm not that type of person. It might help for like my Ohuhu markers, just because sometimes the longest time I spend whenever I'm choosing colors for a piece is being able to find them. The colors don't match 100% to their caps, so sometimes I'm looking for, let's say, something that I think might be a deep orange color, and like the cap is like a salmon pink or something. So like I disregard it while I'm looking at the cap colors and then try and look and match their names. Yeah, the lines aren't too bad. I can't wait when I actually can start putting a lot more darker colors for the outlines. It's gonna make a pretty big difference. Also, I feel like I should put his thumb here. Otherwise, this won't make sense for his hands. Mostly, like, I'm always conflicted on how I want to use opaque medium, so I want to go more cell shady with it and make sure that, you know, it's very clean, smooth application of colors with like very clear divide on where different forms are, or like your shading and all that stuff. Or do I want to go more of like a free approach? It's a little bit more scribbly, kind of messier. I know which one I'm more used to, which is definitely the cell shaded, keeping things clean. I'm gonna use this one a little bit more sparingly, but I need it for extra contrast here. There's a part of me also, like, I rely on the line work. If it is the darkest color, typically for certain areas for the piece, then I like having them so that I can try to figure out what are like kind of the mid-tones that I can kind of put in between everything. Because it gives me a lot more context that way. That, or you can wait until like the very end, which sometimes I do, because I like adding our very darkest color at the very end to kind of tie everything together. Then we'll add like more lines to give it context, but let's work on the mushroom cap a little bit more. So this is gonna at least need like 2 or 3 layers. So we're gonna add our light brown, and then we're gonna add in our dark brown afterwards, and maybe like some other colors to help push the depth a little bit more. And then we just have one more layer, which will be our line art. Hopefully this kind of makes sense form-wise. I might thicken these up because we are gonna have like 2 more layers. So I'm gonna slowly incorporate more of our blue color here. Because like I would like to kind of include it into his mushroom cap as well. Yeah, the blue really helps. It makes things like pop a lot more because I have so many neutral colors going on right now. I need more pops of colors here and there. The yellow is like a very subtle way of doing it because it is quite vibrant still. And then obviously the red just is supposed to be there, so it doesn't feel like it's a pop of color intense enough, I guess, for what I was looking for to be added into the mushroom cap, which I'm excited to do probably once it's fully dried. So I'm gonna look at the blues that I have. This one is 702. Oh, this is 702? Oh, interesting. I'm gonna use a combination of this one and a lighter blue then. I thought I was using like a lighter blue, but I guess that is drawing like a much more darker color than anticipated. But I think that's why I like this color in conjunction with the red, because that was kind of like my initial plan. I'm like comparing the reds that I have. These two are very similar. So I feel like I should go lighter to differentiate where I want the dark areas and the light areas to be, or I just drop shadow right now. Shouldn't have started with the right side. Let's start with the left. Or continue with the left so we can end up at the right. Because my brain's having a little bit of a hard time trying to know where I want the shadows to be because there are no lines anymore. Kind of looks cool though. I do like the almost fluorescent looking look that it's giving. I feel like it's very fitting for something that's like associated with like mushrooms or psychedelics. Kind of like the trippiness. That looks cool though. Definitely the deeper, darker color that we'll use will help tie this together because it is looking a little bit like it's a lot brighter. Because this is reading still very flat, so we need to give this a little bit more of like a lighter edge so that these curve downwards and this is more of like a lip of some sort. So I think I'm gonna come back in like a little bit. There won't be any changes for you guys, but I want to let things completely dry before we tackle our line work, which I'm gonna use a combination of probably, I can grab these, black, kind of like this dark brown, and our darkest color that we have is kind of like a dark purpley blue, which I believe is this one. I think that's what we're gonna use. Typically, a lot of like acrylic marker sets and stuff, I feel like usually don't have, at least to my liking, dark colors that you can use for like that pop. But I kind of understand. I think more people are gravitating towards like these very vibrant mid-tone to light colors, especially if you're working on a surface that's like not white, I guess. So it kind of makes sense. I just wish there was something that wasn't just these three colors typically for something that's like dark enough. I don't think I've fully decided if I've committed to doing liner everywhere. Maybe I should. Or if I should only select some places, but if that was the case, I should have put more mid-tone line work prior so that I could have an easier time choosing and picking where I want my darker lines to be. Because right now we're a little bit shaky. I definitely think the lines will help though, or are helping a lot. I'm gonna do mostly like blue for his eyes and parts of maybe the mushroom cap up here, and then the shirt as well. Okay, and then we'll add a little bit of lines down here. But like I said, I think I'm gonna use the dark blue for this. And we'll pull out some highlights back from the gloves so that we can make them look a little bit more shiny. You guys tell the difference? I hope it makes a difference. Like enough of a difference that's like, I'm not doing this for no reason. Try to use like my camera's viewfinder a little bit because sometimes when I use acrylic markers, the amount of glare that I get while it's still trying to dry, because like it is a wet medium, it's very intense. So sometimes I can't even see if I've laid down like a fairly smooth or even application. Once again, I said I'm gonna try to darken the eyes. This gel pen, or acrylic pen, whatever you want to call it, this one specifically is like very juicy and liquidy, so I can't really get any like thinner lines, which is perfectly fine. So have to be kind of careful. So that we can make it a little bit more contrasty in a way. Oh, I need to do highlights for Ezra's gloves. That might be it for that. So last thing we're gonna do is black, which I don't think too many areas are gonna need this, if any, but I'm gonna see how it looks. And I know that like a lot of people who also use kind of like these acrylic markers or like paint markers, outlining with black is like one of the go-to, I think, because they're typically doing more like graphic looking art styles where it's like it needs that real pop of contrast with your very vibrant colors. So I understand why I feel like there's less dark colors from marker sets or acrylic paint sets, I guess. Because black is nice, but I never feel compelled to do black for like the entire drawing. I like having some softness to it, so that's why I like having like either a dark brown, a dark green, a dark blue, a dark purple. Purple is like typically my go-to if I want to avoid using black. Only because like it's typically dark enough, but it has enough warmth that I feel like it fits with a lot of colors. So I'm gonna use black kind of like sparingly here. I really have to stop drawing on the right side. Makes it very awkward for me to line anything else on the left. This just helps push a little bit more contrast, so I think it looks kind of, makes his eyes look a little bit more brighter and shinier. But I think we're done for this piece. I don't know if we're gonna do something here. I feel like this video is already long enough. So maybe later on in a different session, or maybe you'll see it in a future sketchbook tour, we'll fill this page with something, maybe acrylic marker related or just doodles. But let's do a little overview. I'm also gonna clean up my markers. I don't know if you guys can see the state of my desk. It isn't too bad, but this is kind of how I had it set up right here. You can kind of see like the streakiness here. But here's kind of what he looks like overall. I ended up coloring the leaf very briefly. I don't even know if that's the correct color, but here's kind of what Ezra ended up looking like. I'm debating if I want to quickly do something with acrylic markers and then use this just for the line work, but I feel like I might have better brush control with an actual like brush tip rather than using these gel pens. But I think they're actually a very fun medium to use. And this is the set that I had with the colors, so if you're interested in buying the similar set, then feel free to. I did buy mine during like Boxing Day sale, so I don't actually know what the standard price is typically. But yeah, I think that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me try to experiment with these acrylic gel pens that I've been seeing floating around and I feel like are very popular more recently, especially for a lot of the shorts that I've been seeing. So yeah, so I think that is it for today. I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!